You don't fail IELTS because you can't read fast. Most people think that IELTS is usually a thing of speed. So here is my 3-step scan or 3-step method. Yes, so let's use this example to practice our 3-step method. So like I said, the first thing is you want to read your question first. For the sake of this exercise, we will be doing 15 to 18. Okay, so read your questions first and highlight your keywords. So let's see, in this case, you have your subheadings, which are also important. Okay, and so what are our questions? 15 says, be sure you make drinks that are dash for the customer. Sure, drinks, and then customer. 16, it says, ignore any dash around you. Ignore what? Around you. And then 17, it says, clean the machine dash regularly. Clean and then regularly. And then 18 has to do with grinding, and it says, always use ground coffee that is dash. So always use ground, and then that is what. All right, so what I have done is I've highlighted my question. And so the second step that we talked about, I mentioned the fact that you might not see these words word for word in the passage. The trick of IELTS reading is that they will paraphrase these things. But let's see if we're lucky to find those words. So here I can see drink. So I'm going to underline drink here. I'm also looking for where I'd see customer. So, like I said, you might not see customer. Here you have clientele. Clientele is a paraphrase of customer. Okay, 16, ignore. All right, let's look at the word ignore. Can we find anything about ignore here? Okay, so I can't see ignore, but I can see distracted. So I'm going to underline that. Around me, I can see nearby. I can see a paraphrase for that. All right, then 17, we want to look at, it says clean the machine. Okay, so I can see machines here. I can't, I'm trying to see if I can see anything about cleaning. Okay, I can see rinsing out. And then it says regularly. Can I see a paraphrase for regularly in this passage? Okay, I can't see it yet. I just had to scan. So don't focus on finding everything. It might just be one that you would see. Okay, so 18 has to do with grinding, ground coffee. Okay, so I can see ground coffee here. All right, so that means I have been able to highlight places where I'm likely to find my answers. Okay, so let's answer each of the questions. So let's answer the questions. So for 15, we found clientele and then we found drinks. So let's read that area. So I'm going to read here. It says, as a barrister, you must make concerted efforts to listen to your clientele and make sure the drinks you produce are correct in all respects. So it says, and it says one word only. Always note down, especially for filling the gap questions, how many number of words or what type of answers they expect you to write. Okay, so it says, be sure you make drinks that are dash for the customer. And here it says, drinks you produce are correct. And here has to do with clientele. So the right word for this would be that are. So always take note of the words that are attached to the gap before or after. So the correct word will fit into this are, and the word there is correct. So the answer for number 15 is correct. Okay, so let's look at 16. It says, ignore any dash around you. And we saw distracted, we saw nearby as a paraphrase of around you. So we're going to look at that sentence. We're going to read that sentence. It says, if you become distracted by the conversation that is going on nearby, you may ultimately miss the mark from a service perspective. So if we look at this, if I'm going to miss the mark, that means what are we going to ignore that is nearby? We already said that nearby is a paraphrase of around you. Distracted yeah is opposite of ignore. And so the word that is attached to that is conversation. So the answer for number 16 is conversation. So do you see that this is not exactly what it is in the passage? But when it comes to IELTS, you want to focus on meaning. All right. So what you want to ask yourself is, this last sentence, is it saying the same thing as what I have filled in the gap? So if you become distracted by the conversation that is going on around you, may ultimately miss the mark from a service perspective. That's the same as ignore any conversation around you. So focus on meaning. Okay, so let's quickly answer 17 and 18. 17 says clean the machine dash regularly, and we saw rinsing out here and we saw machines here. So we just want to look at that. It says one thing that separates a great from a good barrister is that the former is constantly busy and has a strong work ethic. You often catch a great barrister rinsing out the filter in their machines. For example, as this erodes the buildup of burnt coffee oil that can begin to impact on the quality and taste of each espresso shot. Okay, so what do they clean regularly based on this statement? Like I said, focus on meaning. It's the filter. Rinsing out is a paraphrase for cleaning right now. And so we'll say the right word is filter. Okay, then 18. 18 has to do with ground coffee. It says always use ground coffee that is. So we look at where we saw ground coffee and we saw it here. It says this highlights the keen attention to detail that distinguish skilled baristas, as they have the desire and the awareness to make every drink with completely fresh ground coffee. And it says this type of attentiveness helps baristas to get the most out of the coffee they use, as many delicate aromas found in espressos are lost when open to open air. Okay, so that's not it, because the next sentence here says open air. And so ground coffee, we're focusing on ground coffee. And it says that they have the desire and awareness to make every drink with completely fresh ground coffee. So the word for 18 is fresh. All right, so that is how to use the three-step method to answer your IELTS question correctly for questions that have to do with this particular question type. Like I said, this three-step method does not apply to all question types. And so if you want a breakdown, a full breakdown on all question types and how to go about it, grab the IELTS Reading Toolkit, where we have videos that explain every question type that you're likely to meet in the IELTS exam. And also, we also have the templates where we have answer keys for the practice in the toolkit and explanation for it. And we also have the strategies summarized in a PDF that you can just take along to your exam or just to refresh minutes before the exam. And so if you want all that, if you want to be on your way to a band 8, band 9, I've gotten 40 over 40 several times in the exam, and you can too. Grab my IELTS toolkit. Bye.